What if I told you that the breakfast most doctors have been recommending for decades might actually be making your arteries worse? I know that sounds controversial. I know some of you might even be eating that exact breakfast right now, thinking you're doing the right thing for your heart. But a landmark study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology earlier this year looked at over 47,000 adults over a 15-year period, and what they found completely changes everything we thought we knew about breakfast and heart health. The researchers discovered that people who ate one specific type of breakfast had a 42% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. 42%. That's not a small number. That's the difference between seeing your grandchildren graduate and not being there at all. I'm Dr. Evelyn Moore. I've been practicing cardiology for over 23 years, and I have to be honest with you. When I first saw this research, I was skeptical. But after reviewing the data, after seeing the results in my own patients, I can tell you with complete confidence that this one breakfast choice could be the most important change you ever make for your heart. But before I reveal exactly what this breakfast is and why it works so powerfully, you need to understand something critical. You need to understand why the advice you've been following might actually be working against you. And to explain that, I need to tell you about a patient of mine named Margaret. Margaret came to see me 3 years ago. She was 67 years old, a retired school teacher, the kind of woman who did everything right. She walked 30 minutes every day with her neighbor. She hadn't touched a cigarette in her entire life. She took her medications exactly as prescribed, and every single morning for the past 12 years, Margaret ate what she thought was the healthiest breakfast possible: whole grain toast with a thin spread of margarine and a glass of orange juice. Sound familiar? That's what most of us were told to eat, right? Whole grains, low fat, fruit juice for the vitamins. Margaret believed she was protecting her heart. She was doing everything the pamphlets said, everything the old guidelines recommended. So when Margaret sat across from me in my office that day, holding her test results with trembling hands, she couldn't understand what had gone wrong. Her coronary calcium score had come back at 412. For those of you who don't know, a score above 300 indicates significant plaque buildup in your arteries. A score above 400 means you're at high risk for a heart attack within the next 3 to 5 years. Margaret looked at me and said, "Dr. Moore, how is this possible? I've been so careful. I've done everything right." And I remember sitting there looking at this dedicated woman who had tried so hard and feeling this wave of frustration wash over me. Not at Margaret, never at Margaret, but at the system, at the outdated information that's still being passed around like gospel truth, even though the science has moved on. I took a deep breath and said, "Margaret, I need to tell you something that might be hard to hear. That breakfast you've been eating every morning, the one you thought was protecting your heart, it might be one of the reasons we're sitting here today." Her face went pale. "What do you mean?" she asked. I explained to her what I'm about to explain to you. That whole grain toast she was eating, it was spiking her blood sugar every single morning, creating inflammation in her arterial walls. That margarine, loaded with omega-6 fatty acids that were throwing her body's inflammatory response completely out of balance. And that orange juice she thought was so healthy, pure liquid sugar hitting her bloodstream like a freight train, causing her insulin to spike, her triglycerides to rise, and her body to store fat in all the wrong places. 12 years of doing everything right had actually been 12 years of slowly damaging her cardiovascular system. Margaret started to cry, not loud, dramatic crying, but quiet tears rolling down her cheeks as she processed what I was telling her. "So, what do I do now?" she whispered. "Is it too late?" I reached across and took her hand. "Margaret," I said, "it is never too late. Your body has an incredible ability to heal itself when you give it the right tools. And I'm going to give you those tools, starting with one simple change to your morning routine." I want to pause here and ask you something. Have you ever had a moment like Margaret's? A moment where you realized that something you thought was helping you might actually be hurting you? If you have, I want you to type "yes" in the comments below. I read every single comment, and I want to know how many of you have experienced that same confusion, that same frustration with conflicting health information. Go ahead and comment now, and then come right back, because what I'm about to share with you next could literally save your life. Now, to understand why that breakfast change I gave Margaret worked so dramatically, and it did work dramatically, as you'll see in a moment, you need to understand what's actually happening inside your arteries when you eat. Think of your arteries like a garden hose. When you're young and healthy, that hose is smooth and flexible on the inside. Blood flows through easily, delivering oxygen and nutrients to every part of your body. But here's what happens when you eat foods that spike your blood sugar. Every time your blood sugar shoots up rapidly, it's like tiny shards of glass are being dragged along the inside of that garden hose. These blood sugar spikes create what we call oxidative stress. They damage the delicate endothelial cells that line your arteries, and your body, in its attempt to repair this damage, sends cholesterol to patch up the wounds. This is actually cholesterol doing its job, trying to protect you. But when you're damaging your arteries every single morning with a high glycemic breakfast, more and more cholesterol gets sent to patch things up, layer upon layer upon layer. And over time, those patches become plaque. That plaque hardens. Your flexible garden hose becomes a rigid, narrowed pipe, and one day a piece of that plaque breaks off or the narrowing becomes so severe that blood can't get through, and that's when you have a heart attack or a stroke. But here's what most people don't understand. It's not just what you eat, it's when you eat it. Your body's response to food is dramatically different in the morning compared to later in the day. In the morning, after you've been fasting all night during sleep, your body is in a heightened state of insulin sensitivity. This sounds like a good thing, and in some ways it is. But it also means that whatever you eat for breakfast has an amplified effect on your blood sugar. A bowl of cereal at 8 in the morning will spike your blood sugar significantly more than that same bowl of cereal at 2 in the afternoon. This is called the dawn phenomenon, and it's why breakfast choices matter more than any other meal of the day for your cardiovascular health. So what happens when you eat toast and orange juice first thing in the morning? Your blood sugar rockets up. Your pancreas floods your system with insulin to bring it back down. This creates a massive insulin spike, which triggers inflammation. Your body then overcorrects, your blood sugar crashes, and by 10 or 11 in the morning, you're tired, foggy, and craving more carbohydrates to bring your energy back up. It's a vicious cycle that millions of people are trapped in without even realizing it. And every single day, this cycle is depositing more and more plaque in their arteries. Now, there's a second mechanism at play here that I need you to understand because it's equally important. It has to do with something called postprandial lipemia. That's a fancy medical term that simply means the fat floating around in your bloodstream after you eat. When you eat a meal, especially a meal high in refined carbohydrates and the wrong types of fats, your triglyceride levels spike. These triglycerides are carrying fat through your bloodstream, and when levels are too high, some of that fat gets deposited in your arterial walls. Studies have shown that people who consistently have high triglycerides after meals, even if their fasting triglycerides are normal, have significantly higher rates of atherosclerosis. And guess what meal has the biggest impact on postprandial triglycerides? Breakfast. Because your body has been fasting all night, the way you break that fast sets the metabolic tone for your entire day. This is why I told Margaret that changing her breakfast was the single most important thing she could do for her arteries. Not her lunch, not her dinner, her breakfast. And now I'm going to tell you exactly what that breakfast is. The breakfast that research has shown can actually help reverse the damage in your arteries. The breakfast that my patients have used to lower their cardiovascular risk by incredible amounts. Are you ready? The breakfast I'm talking about is overnight oats made with a very specific combination of ingredients. Now, before you click away thinking, oh, oats, I've heard that before, please stay with me because it's not just about eating oats. It's about eating them in a specific way at a specific temperature with specific additions that transform them from a simple grain into what I call an arterial cleaning machine. Let me explain. Oats contain a special type of fiber called beta-glucan. Beta-glucan is a soluble fiber that does something remarkable in your digestive system. It forms a thick gel that physically binds to cholesterol and bile acids in your gut and escorts them out of your body. A meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition looked at 28 clinical trials and found that consuming just 3 grams of beta-glucan daily, that's the amount in about 1.5 cups of cooked oats, lowered LDL cholesterol by an average of 7%. But here's what makes this even more powerful. When you prepare oats as overnight oats, meaning you soak them in liquid overnight in the refrigerator rather than cooking them with heat, you create something called resistant starch. Resistant starch is a type of carbohydrate that your body cannot digest, which means it doesn't spike your blood sugar. Instead, it passes through to your large intestine, where it feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. These bacteria then produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate, which has been shown in multiple studies to reduce inflammation throughout your entire body, including in your arteries. But here's where it gets really exciting. The study I mentioned at the beginning, the one with 47,000 participants, found that the protective effect of whole grain oats was dramatically increased when they were consumed with specific additions. The first addition is ground flaxseed. Just 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed contain over 100% of your daily requirement of alpha-linolenic acid, which is a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. Omega-3s are nature's anti-inflammatory compounds. They help counteract the omega-6 fatty acids that are so prevalent in the modern diet and that contribute to arterial inflammation. The second addition is berries, any type of berries. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries. Berries are loaded with compounds called anthocyanins, which give them their deep colors. Research has shown that anthocyanins directly improve the function of your endothelial cells, the cells lining your arteries, making them more flexible and responsive. A study in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that people who ate 1 cup of mixed berries daily for 8 weeks had significant improvements in their arterial function, as measured by flow-mediated dilation. And the third addition is a small handful of walnuts. Walnuts are the only nut that contains significant amounts of alpha-linolenic acid, adding to the anti-inflammatory omega-3 power of the flaxseed. They also contain an amino acid called L-arginine, which your body uses to produce nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is what keeps your blood vessels relaxed and open. It's your body's natural defense against high blood pressure and arterial stiffness. When you combine these 4 ingredients, overnight oats with ground flaxseed, berries, and walnuts, you create a breakfast that attacks arterial plaque from multiple angles simultaneously. The beta-glucan binds cholesterol and removes it from your body. The resistant starch prevents blood sugar spikes and feeds your beneficial gut bacteria. The omega-3s reduce inflammation in your arterial walls. The anthocyanins improve endothelial function. And the L-arginine boosts nitric oxide production to keep your arteries flexible and open. This is not one magic ingredient. This is a symphony of compounds working together in harmony to protect your cardiovascular system. Now, let me tell you what happened to Margaret. After our conversation that day, Margaret committed to changing her breakfast. She went home and threw out the bread, the margarine, and the orange juice. That very night, she prepared her first batch of overnight oats using the recipe I gave her. The same recipe I'm going to share with you in detail in just a few minutes. For the first week, she told me it felt strange. She was so used to her toast and juice routine that eating something cold from the refrigerator took some adjustment. But by the second week, she noticed something remarkable. That mid-morning energy crash she'd experienced for years, gone. She no longer felt the need to snack at 10:30. Her energy was steady throughout the entire morning. By month 2, she came in for a follow-up blood test. Her LDL cholesterol had dropped from 172 to 138. Her triglycerides had dropped from 210 to 144. Her fasting glucose had gone from 112 to 96. And remember, the only thing she changed was her breakfast. We scheduled a repeat coronary calcium scan for 1 year after her initial diagnosis. Now, I want to be clear about something here. Coronary calcium scores don't typically go down. The plaque that's already there tends to stay there. What we look for is whether the score is stable or whether it's continuing to rise. A stable score means we've stopped the progression. A rising score means the disease is getting worse. When Margaret's results came back, I called her personally. Her score had gone from 412 to 387. It had actually decreased. Not by a lot, but it had decreased. In 23 years of practice, I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen a calcium score go down. Margaret cried again that day, but this time they were tears of relief and hope. I want to tell you about two other patients who experienced similar transformations because I think their stories will help you see how this can work in different situations. The first is a gentleman named Harold, 74 years old. Harold was what I call a reluctant patient. His wife had dragged him to see me after he'd been having chest tightness when climbing stairs. Harold had been eating bacon and eggs for breakfast every single morning for 50 years, and he made it very clear that he wasn't about to change now. "I'm too old to start eating rabbit food," he told me with his arms crossed. I didn't argue with him. Instead, I made him a deal. I said, "Harold, just try this for 6 weeks. If you don't feel any different, if your numbers don't improve, you can go right back to your bacon and eggs and I'll never mention it again." Harold grumbled, but his wife was sitting right there, and I think he knew he was outnumbered. 6 weeks later, Harold was a convert. His chest tightness when climbing stairs? Completely gone. He was walking up 2 flights without any discomfort. His blood pressure had dropped from 152/94 to 138/82. And do you know what Harold told me? He said, "Dr. Moore, I actually like this breakfast. I never thought I'd say that about oats, but I actually look forward to it now." Harold has been eating overnight oats every morning for 2 years now, and his cardiovascular markers have continued to improve steadily. The second patient I want to tell you about is a woman named Patricia, 61 years old. Patricia came to me in a state of panic because her father had died of a heart attack at 63, and she was convinced she was next. She was doing everything she could think of to prevent the same fate, but she was overwhelmed by conflicting information. One website told her to eat low fat. Another told her to avoid carbs entirely. A third told her to only eat between noon and 8 p.m. She was confused, stressed, and that stress was probably making her cardiovascular risk even worse. I sat Patricia down and told her to forget everything she'd read online. I gave her one simple instruction. Change your breakfast to overnight oats with these specific additions. Nothing else. Don't worry about lunch. Don't worry about dinner. Don't worry about eating windows or macro ratios or any of that complicated stuff. Just change your breakfast and see what happens. 3 months later, Patricia's inflammation markers had dropped dramatically. Her C-reactive protein, which is a key indicator of systemic inflammation, had gone from 4.8 to 1.2. Her homocysteine, another inflammatory marker associated with heart disease, had normalized. And her LDL particle number, which is an even more accurate predictor of cardiovascular risk than standard LDL cholesterol, had decreased by over 20%. But perhaps more importantly than any of those numbers, Patricia told me she finally felt like she was in control. She wasn't overwhelmed anymore. She had one clear, simple thing to do every day that she knew was helping her heart. That sense of control, that reduction in anxiety and stress probably helped her cardiovascular health almost as much as the breakfast itself. Now, I'm curious about your situation. Are you dealing with high cholesterol right now? Have you been told your numbers need to improve? Are you worried about heart disease because of your family history? Whatever your situation is, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Tell me what your biggest cardiovascular health concern is right now. Is it cholesterol? Blood pressure, a family history of heart attacks? Let me know, because understanding what you're dealing with helps me create better content to support you on your health journey. All right, let me give you the exact protocol I use with my patients. I'm going to make this as simple and actionable as possible, because I know how overwhelming health information can be. This is what you're going to do, starting tonight. Step 1. Go to your kitchen and gather the ingredients you'll need. You need rolled oats, not instant oats, not steel-cut oats, but regular, old-fashioned rolled oats. The instant oats are too processed and won't give you the same blood sugar benefits. The steel-cut oats don't soften enough overnight. Rolled oats are the perfect middle ground. You also need ground flaxseed, not whole flaxseed, because your body can't digest the whole seeds. They'll pass right through without giving you the omega-3 benefits. You need a container of frozen mixed berries, which are actually better than fresh for this purpose because they're frozen at peak ripeness and they thaw perfectly overnight. You need raw, unsalted walnuts, and you need your choice of milk, whether that's regular dairy milk, almond milk, oat milk, or any other kind you prefer. Step 2. Tonight, before you go to bed, take a mason jar or any container with a lid. Add half a cup of rolled oats. Add 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. Add 1 cup of your chosen milk. Stir it all together, put the lid on, and place it in the refrigerator. That's it for tonight. Step 3. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, take your jar out of the refrigerator. The oats will have absorbed the liquid and become soft and creamy. Add half a cup of your frozen mixed berries. They'll have thawed slightly, but will still be cool and fresh. Add a small handful of walnuts, roughly 8 to 10 walnut halves. Stir it all together and eat it right out of the jar if you want to. No cooking required, no dishes to wash except 1 spoon and 1 jar. Step 4. Repeat this every single day. Consistency is the key here. This isn't a breakfast to eat 3 times a week and then go back to toast and juice the other days. The benefits compound over time when you're consistent. Your gut bacteria adapt to the fiber, your cholesterol clearance improves steadily, and your inflammatory markers continue to decrease. I recommend preparing 3 to 4 jars at a time on one day so you have your breakfast ready for half the week. It takes about 5 minutes to prepare 4 jars. Step 5. At your next doctor's appointment, ask for a comprehensive lipid panel that includes not just total cholesterol, LDL and HDL, but also triglycerides, apolipoprotein B, and if possible, LDL particle number. Also ask about getting your C-reactive protein tested, as this measures inflammation. These tests will give you a baseline that you can compare against in 3 to 6 months to see exactly how much your breakfast change is helping. Step 6. Pay attention to how you feel. Within the first 2 weeks, you should notice more stable energy levels throughout the morning. No more mid-morning crash. No more desperate search for snacks at 10 a.m. Your mental clarity should improve because your blood sugar isn't on that roller coaster anymore. These subjective improvements are often the first sign that something positive is happening inside your body. Now, I need to give you an important warning. Please, please, please do not take this information and use it as a substitute for working with your own doctor. If you're on cholesterol medication, don't stop taking it because you're eating overnight oats. If you have existing heart disease, this breakfast is a wonderful addition to your treatment plan, not a replacement for it. I share this information to empower you, not to replace the personalized care that only your own physician can provide. Always discuss any significant dietary changes with your healthcare provider, especially if you're managing existing conditions or taking medications. There's one more thing I want to address before I let you go today. Some of you might be thinking, Dr. Moore, this sounds too simple. How can just changing my breakfast make such a big difference? And I understand that skepticism. We've been conditioned to believe that improving our health requires complicated programs, expensive supplements, or extreme lifestyle overhauls. But the truth is, sometimes the most powerful changes are the simple ones. And here's why breakfast matters so much more than you might think. Your breakfast sets the metabolic stage for your entire day. When you start your day with a blood sugar spike, you're setting yourself up for a day of cravings, energy fluctuations, and inflammatory responses. When you start your day with a balanced, fiber-rich meal that provides steady energy without spiking your blood sugar, you're setting yourself up for a day of metabolic stability. That stability, repeated day after day, week after week, month after month, is what allows your body to heal. Remember, atherosclerosis doesn't develop overnight, and it doesn't reverse overnight either. But every day that you give your body the right tools and stop giving it the wrong inputs, you're moving in the direction of healing. Every single day matters. Let me leave you with this thought. Every morning, you have a choice. You can reach for the foods that convenience and habit have made familiar, even if those foods are slowly damaging your arteries. Or you can spend 5 minutes the night before preparing a breakfast that actively fights for your cardiovascular health. One choice leads to more plaque, more inflammation, more risk. The other choice leads to cleaner arteries, less inflammation, and more years with the people you love. The decision seems pretty clear to me. If this video has been helpful to you, if you've learned something that could improve your health, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss my upcoming videos. Next week, I'm going to share the single worst thing you can drink for your heart, and I guarantee it's not what you think it is. Also, please share this video with someone you love who might benefit from this information. Maybe your spouse, your sibling, or a friend who's been struggling with their cholesterol. Sometimes the best gift we can give someone is information that could extend their life. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm Dr. Evelyn Moore, and I believe in your ability to transform your health, one breakfast at a time. Take care of your heart, and I'll see you in the next video.